Using documentation from writers on this Philco radio and also some very good information off the web, all of that information works out to be the Philco Bakelite capacitor decoder ring. Once I figured out what was inside of the Bakelite containers, I then started replacing the capacitors and isolating the old ones completely. They're completely out of the circuit. And as you can see, I did not put the new capacitors into the Bakelite containers. I prefer seeing the capacitors that I put in. If I make an error in replacing the capacitor, or if the information that I used has an error, it's just much easier to find the problem if you can see the capacitors. As I was replacing these capacitors, I noticed I had a loose wire, and what happened was somebody had, I guess, done some troubleshooting, and they had taken a couple of wires off the antenna coil, but hadn't bothered about soldering them back on. And of course I did do that, and then I went ahead and completed changing out the capacitors, or at least enough so I could test the radio. Now I've changed out enough capacitors that I can put a little power on the radio to see if there's any other problems that I haven't caught yet. Okay, here's the setup. I just chose a resistor that I know is too high to substitute for the field coil. And as you can see, I've alligator clipped the audio transformer and the speaker in there. And something that I always do on these power supply and the capacitor is I have a meter ready to go as I turn power on this. And I bring up the voltage slowly. Let's see here. Well, let's bring it up to 50 or 60 volts. And we have about 130 volts already on the main power. It's supposed to have about 250, I believe. And it's positive, that's good. That means that I put the capacitors in correctly. Let's see here. Yep, nothing out of the speakers yet. Okay. So we'll bring up the voltage a little bit more. And I also take a real close look at the current. And that's looking good. Noise. Okay. Not quite 200. Now, of course, I put in a new 24 there and an 80 power tube.
Expand our service. The station is located in inside the restored Walker Warehouse building.
Okay.
President Barack Obama has wrapped up his visit to Ghana, where he spoke to lawmakers and toured a castle where slaves were once kept in a dungeon. Obama challenged Africans to shed tyranny, corruption, and conflict in favor of peace and prosperity. NASA technicians are giving Space Shuttle Endeavour a careful going over after lightning struck at least 11 times near its launch pad yesterday. NASA says the shuttle wasn't struck and there's no evidence of any damage, but technicians will need at least another day to check everything out.
Minor caps to replace yet.
And now your AccuWeather forecast.
Tone control over here.
High of 90. We do have a chance of a thunderstorm in spots this evening, otherwise partly cloudy in the low of 68.
And noise suppression right there.
Chance of an afternoon thunderstorm at a high of 91, and as you head back to work on Monday,
turn down the volume.
Thunderstorms likely and a high of 90. It is 88 degrees right now. The real feel 91. I'm Mark Muller, WPTF News.
So, we got some more work to do, and I'll go through an alignment, but it's going to be successful.